Hello, everyone. One thing I've always said when making videos is that if you get something wrong, the internet will definitely let you know about it. And well, you guys are letting me know about it. So today, I wanted to address a few errors that I've made in some of my Pokemon videos. No fancy intro or anything like that. Let's just jump right in. In my first big video for the Q glitch, I accidentally conflated M and Missing No, implying that they were the same Pokemon. That's definitely not the case, and while there are some similarities between the two, these similarities come from the fact that both Glitchmon use Pokedex ID 000. This is why both can be used for the item duplication glitch, and it's also responsible for inserting junk data into the Hall of Fame. On the topic of item duplication, I made a statement in the Metapod Shoplifter video regarding how the glitch works. This was a very watered down explanation, and frankly, it wasn't correct. You see, the game keeps track of what Pokemon you've seen in the Pokedex by using bits. Think of it like a light switch. It can only ever be on or off. Or in this case, the Pokemon can either be marked as seen or not seen in the Pokedex. This works perfectly fine for any normal Pokemon, as there's space in the data set aside to keep track of this information. But for glitch Pokemon, it points to unintended areas. As it just so happens, when you encounter a Pokemon with a Pokedex ID of 000, the bit that gets set is the 7th bit of your 6th item's quantity. While that clarification may be enough for people familiar with the glitch, I wanted to give a visualization for people who aren't technically inclined to better understand this. Imagine that this byte is what's used to keep track of your 6th item's quantity. The following numbers correspond to each of the bits in this line. If you didn't have any items in the 6th slot, the byte would contain all zeros. If you had 1 in the 6th slot, the byte changes to this. Each bit gets added up to give you the total number of items in that slot. So if you had 46 items in the slot, the byte would look like this. Now, when we encounter a Pokemon with a Pokedex ID of 000, the 7th bit gets set to 1, which corresponds to 128. This is how 128 copies of the item get added to the inventory. Furthermore, if you encounter one of these Glitchmon with an item quantity above 128, nothing happens because the bit is already set to 1, so no changes are made. The third topic for this video comes from the recent solo runs that I did. At the beginning of Mew's run, I chose to spend more time leveling up for Brock instead of using Transform and Bide on Onyx. Since there were a lot of people commenting on this likely being the more optimal play, I wanted to go back and see how well this would work. After a few tries, I got on a really good run against Geodude and made it to Onyx with 40 HP after the level up. You really need to watch how you use your moves since you only get 5 power points for each attack. The more screeches Onyx uses, the better, since that means more damage with Bide. But it's not quite enough to knock out Onyx on its own, and with a little bit of struggling and good luck, Mew can indeed get the Boulder Badge without needing to level up more, further solidifying its lead against the other two runners. For number 4, I wanted to quickly touch on the Jinx thing from the previous video. As I stated, the Gongoro fashion trends became more popular in Japan around the late 90s and early 2000s. Since Pokemon came out in 1996, it's less likely that this is the direct inspiration for Jinx, and there's plenty of speculation as to what the devs were thinking, and I'm just going to leave it at that. And finally, we have what is probably the biggest error that I've made on my channel since starting it. In the comments of my Pokemon Stadium Differences video, a lot of you pointed out that I missed some other Gen 1 trades to get a few of the Pika Cup Pokemon that I said were illegal. So let's go over those. To start, I said there was no way to get a Kangaskhan for Pika Cup until Gold and Silver came out. However, by surfing in Route 6 in Yellow version, you're able to find a level 15 Golduck. This can then be used to trade with the NPC in the Pokemon Lab to get a Rhydon at level 15, which is one of the Pokemon that I said was illegal for Pika Cup. If you're playing on a Japanese copy of Yellow, you can send that Rhydon to Blue version and trade for a level 15 Kangaskhan. What's more, you can then trade that Kangaskhan back to Yellow version to trade for a level 15 Muck. Unfortunately, these next few are much less convoluted, and I don't really have a good defense as to how I missed them. For Golem, you can just catch the level 15 Kadabra in gold and silver, store it in the box on Stadium 2, and withdraw it to the Japanese version of Blue to get a Golem at level 15. No need to actually trade the Kadabra, so you can skip it evolving into Alakazam. For Electrode, there's a trade in the Pokemon Lab for red, blue, and green versions, and all you need is a Raichu. That means that you can not only get this Electrode at level 15, it means you can get one as low as level 3. For Dugong, there's a trade in yellow version that only requires a Growlithe, which can be found on Route 8 in red or the Japanese version of blue. For Machamp, there's a trade in yellow that needs a Cubone, which can be found at the Savari Zone at levels 16 and 19. That just leaves Seadra. In Gold and Silver, you can find a level 20 Seadra in one of the floors of the Whirl Islands. But just like the Machamp, the Seadra that gets used in the Pika Cup are at lower levels than what we can get them, so they fall into the kind of illegal category. And that should hopefully do it. Moral of the story, always double, triple, quadruple check your research. And play more Pokemon. Sorry for any confusion that these missed points might have caused, and I do appreciate you guys pointing this stuff out. It helps me get better at making videos. Definitely let me know in the future if I make any more mistakes like these, and I'll be sure to address them. With that, I'm currently working on something a little bit more special for the channel, so I'll be seeing you all again very soon. Thanks a bunch.
See you next time!